I chose to do my placement at Westdale Infant School as I have previously done the majority of my experience in Key Stage 2, so I was keen to gain more experience working in Key Stage 1. I also made the decision to do my placement back home in Nottingham as I recognised the importance and influence of word of mouth, so I wanted to begin building a reputation in the city where I hope to work in the future, as well as having the chance to discover schools I like and would potentially like to work at once qualified. Another factor influencing my decision to work at Westdale was the fact that I have experience helping out in several schools located in disadvantaged areas, so I was curious to try working at a school with a different socio-economic catchment area. I selected my learning outcomes by questioning what I wanted to achieve personally as well as what I needed to achieve professionally. My first learning outcome I decided to have was to increase my skills needed to work with children with SEND, EAL, and behavioural difficulties. I thought this was important as these particular needs are on the increase and therefore I need to be confident in this area. This is supported by gov.uk as they found a 3.1% increase in children requiring an education healthcare plan in 2020. The table on this screen highlights this rapid increase. My second learning outcome was to become more confident when leading lessons or supporting teachers. This is a personal learning outcome as it's an area I feel I need to improve. Also, confidence is important as Nolan and Moller suggested that confidence is a key element to teacher professionalism. Another learning outcome was to gain experience not just in PE but in a wide variety of subjects and learning. This is highly important for me personally as I plan on becoming a primary school teacher and therefore will need to be comfortable educating in a wide range of subjects and skills. My final learning outcome for this particular placement was to improve my ability to differentiate learning for pupils of different abilities. Although I have learnt a lot about differentiation, I personally feel as though I have not had the opportunity to apply it to real-life situations as much as I would have liked, and therefore I feel like it's an area I wanted to focus on during placement. To what extent I have achieved my learning outcomes. My first learning outcome was to become more confident when working with behavioural SEND or EAL needs. The area I gained most experience in whilst on placement was English as an additional language. I regularly had to work one-to-one with a 6-year-old boy who spoke little English. We'll call him Child A for the purpose of this assignment. Having never had to deal with EAL before, I found it challenging to begin with. However, I soon learnt ways to adapt, such as making and using visual aids and also encouraging speaking just as much as listening. Exercising methods like these is supported by Handa and Wells, who have conducted much research into the education of EAL students. Moreover, in terms of special educational needs, there were few children I worked with on placement who had various learning difficulties. From observing other staff, I did not always think the way they dealt with certain situations was the best way, as often the response to a child being challenging was to let them play whilst their peers continued learning. Therefore, I do not feel I have achieved my goal to the extent I would have hoped to in terms of improving my confidence working with SEND students. Learning outcome 2 was to become more confident when leading lessons and supporting other teachers. I believe I achieved this as from the first day of placement, I was given the responsibility of working with a group of 4 pupils every day in order to develop their fine motor skills. I was given a brief plan to guide me, but by the second week I felt confident enough to adapt and add new activities and tasks. The children's feedback was positive and I was able to see clear improvement in their handwriting as a result of the activities we had been working on, so I view this as a success in terms of achieving my goal. Furthermore, in terms of leading actual lessons, I was able to lead several PE lessons. I received positive feedback from the teacher who stepped back to observe me. On one occasion, due to an incident, I was given the job of introducing and leading a lesson without warning or time to prepare. I was able to improvise and lead the lesson to a good standard. I feel this demonstrates that I achieved my goal, as before starting placement I would have been unable to be so calm and proactive in that situation, thus showing my increased confidence and use of initiative. This goal was important to me As studying PE at university, I do not have the opportunity to learn about other subjects, and as a primary school teacher, this is crucial. So before starting placement, I made a list of subjects I hope to learn about, and the table on the screen shows this and how many lessons I took part in, which shows how much experience I was able to gain in each area. My final learning objective was to improve my ability to differentiate learning for pupils of different abilities. I feel as though I developed these skills through both observing and practicing the skill of differentiation. The image on the screen shows an example of how I differentiated learning for my fine motor skills sessions I led. Another time I had to differentiate tasks was when working with child A, as I followed instructions when working with him. However, I used my initiative to differentiate the learning when I found it necessary. To determine the extent to which my placement made me more employable, I read the Department of Education Teachers Standards 2011 in detail and compared my experiences and skills to the criteria. This can be seen on the diagrams on the following slides. In general, I feel as though I am more employable in the sense that I have shown professionalism, confidence, and good practice. I have also increased my knowledge of the running of schools as well as the Key Stage 1 curriculum. In addition to this, I have also made contacts as both the head teachers at the school I visited said they would love to have me back. This makes me more employable as I am guaranteed a good reference from this particular school. A few other skills I possess now, which therefore makes me more employable, are displayed on the screen. In the next 6 months leading up to applying for teacher training, I plan to continue working part-time at an after-school club and possibly increasing my shifts to gain as much experience as possible working with children ranging from reception to year 6. The next step will also consist of updating my CV and writing my personal statement, which I will use to apply for my primary PGCE. I will also be researching possible interview questions and preparing for the interview. I will also continue working at my second job at a COVID test site, which is in a largely EAL area. This will further improve my skills and confidence working with people with limited English. In addition to this, I will also be helping at a summer holiday club based in an infant school in Nottingham to help me gain as much experience working with children as possible. This next slide shows my action plan in a timeline format to indicate how I plan to and when I plan to complete everything I hope to achieve before applying for teacher training, which is the ultimate goal. During my time on placement, I was able to observe PE lessons for all age groups and many Year 1 lessons for other subjects. Based on my observations, I've come up with a key area in which I want to critically examine. Something that caught my attention the most was the lack of inclusion for people with EAL or SEND. A prime example of this refers to child A again, who was regularly left out of whole class learning, which resulted in him appearing isolated and disconnected from the other children in his class. This could hinder his social and emotional development, as Holmes suggested that children need to enjoy relationships and social interactions in order to develop properly. This is further backed up by lifeeducation.org, who claim that self-esteem, social competence, and self-confidence positively correlate with having friends. Considering the other children do not regularly talk to and play with child A, it's obvious he has struggled to make friends, which could negatively affect his social and emotional development. This arguably is a failure of the school, and therefore is something I would try to avoid as much as possible when I am becoming a teacher in the future. Also, one of the best ways pupils learn a new language is to speak through conversations. I feel as though, even though we had many conversations, it would have benefited him to have more with children his own age. Doyle refers to this in his article as he mentions that conversing with people in fluent English is a good way to learn the language. Also, the Department of Education's teacher standards state that pupils of all backgrounds should be stretched and challenged, which would likely be achieved by involving him in class activities. The teacher standards also state that teachers should make a positive contribution to the ethos of the school. This is significant as inclusion is a key part of Westdale's ethos and policies, and therefore by removing Child A from the class because he speaks a different language arguably contradicts their own ethos. In conclusion, I believe I made an excellent choice of placement as I was able to work with children from all different backgrounds to what I've previously experienced, and I feel as though I've gained much valuable experience in Key Stage 1 that I did not previously have. Plus, I recognise that as a result of placement I am now more employable as I have proven to the school but also to myself that I have a skill set required to work in a primary school. Furthermore, being in a school every day for several weeks gave me the opportunity to learn so much about what becoming a primary school teacher entails, and it has given me the confidence to believe that I am indeed making the correct career choice, as it is something I have discovered that I really enjoy but I'm also good at. The images on the slide show my successes and feedback from placement, and I feel as though they are important to show in my presentation as they play a significant part in boosting my confidence, which was an ultimate aim of mine.